and we can just carry on from there. All right. Traditionally, I would do an introduction to anybody who might be watching the stream or watching it as a video thereafter. So there would be very much a hello, ladies and gentlemen type of thing. Welcome back to the Wilderlands. When we last left off, which is a great chance for me to give everybody here a summary of where we're at, and you guys to shout back at me, nope, you're misremembering that, Miles. So in our case, when we left off, if I remember, our group was trapped behind a force field that appears to have been generated by a giant ancient monolith on top of a cliff. And having scouted the perimeter around the butte that houses this monolith and realized that there's no way out, they've come across a rope ladder up to the top, which they've taken and walked through a bunch of undergrowth and woodland at the top of the plateau until they came to a clearing, which is where the monolith is, but is also where they've come across 6 of the black robed or black cloaked, just black clothed. And they're not really robes; they're not cloaked. So they're wearing those sort of severe Amish type of clothes, but figures who you recognise from the very start of the campaign as being the same group who were on their way to Seventh Creek to do no good and got themselves into a gunfight on board the Serendipity, which was getting a windows shot out was just the beginning of the poor boat's troubles. And so here you find yourselves with the lookout for their group raising a rifle hastily to his shoulder, and Pendle, I believe it is, was at the front of the group of characters heading into the clearing. So he stepped forward, partly to allow people behind to get in there, and partly to try and negotiate and talk to these people rather than get into a combat. Meanwhile, let's see, I think it was Dana was next in line and ducked into the bushes, realizing that you guys had company, and so is in the undergrowth and in the forest, hiding and watching. And I can't remember who was third in line, fourth and fifth, as to which order you guys were walking in as you came down this narrow path.
Malthus was third, then Baroness, then Inessa.
Okay. But I'm aware that you were not around the corner at the point where Pendle stumbled into the clearing. So you can't see necessarily what's going on ahead, apart from Pendle now addressing people ahead and talking to them, and Dana diving into the undergrowth. And that's probably why the Baroness has gone on hold to just take in the situation a little bit and see how it develops. Am I about right about that?
Yes. One small question.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5 karma tokens. I should have only 4.
Yeah, 5. Well, I think that's because
I got a Joker.
Ooh, good point. Yeah, you did.
it's a fair question. At the beginning of a session, should karma and adventure cards be reset, even when the session is a, if you will, cliffhanger halfway through a situation, or do you let that roll?
GM call.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to let it go because honestly, we're just continuing straight on from where we were before. But if, for instance, you guys were really low, had used up all your karma in the previous session and were really low, and we were still in the middle of, let's say, a combat, then of course it works the other way around, where I turn around and say, well, we're in the middle of things, so we're really continuing from where we were before, and you guys are all, oh wow, we're going to be doing this without any karma. Ouch. This time around, it's actually in your favor.
It's fair enough. It's all dramatic effect. You make the decision. I would say probably just keep the karma as it was previously, as we had to break because we just ran.
Okay. Let me mark up the next person on the cultist list as they are going to appear in the initiative order. Inessa, given that you also can't see around the corner, you can either step forward to see what Pendle's going on about, or you can go on hold, or indeed take any other action you like. Like you can ask Adana what's going on, that sort of thing.
I think I'm going to hold.
Okay, so did we decide how to get your character on hold? Hey, look at that. For the benefit of the rest of us, how did you do that?
There's a button at the bottom when it's your turn.
Ooh. I don't have a button on my screen that lets me go put the cultist leader on hold.
It's assumed to do something.
Well, that's just upsetting. Does the button actually say on hold or something like that? Or is it just a cryptic picture?
I'm sure it says something about hold.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Apparently, as a GM, I don't get that for my guys. They're not allowed to hold. Naughty, naughty cultists. They don't get to wait and do things at the end of the round. Okay. Well, as it happens, the cultist leader has no intention of waiting. He is the guy who I mentioned to Pendle and Dana is kneeling down in front of what looks like a piece of the monolith that has fallen off many moons ago and since been part buried. So there's only a bit of it sticking out of the ground, and it looks like the surface or the covering to it has been stripped back to show a bunch of circuitry and wiring underneath, which he was in the middle of investigating with another member of his group at his side when Pendle broke into the clearing. And spotting that Pendle strode forward, and I can't actually remember what Pendle was saying. Can anybody remember what Pendle was actually talking about when he said what he was saying as he was stepping forward?
It was, I think, a general, like, friendly greeting.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
along those lines.
That's what I remember. Just saying, "Hello, friends," sort of thing.
Okay, a disarming presence. Pendle, as much as he looks like the Frankenstein's monster of the Wilderlands, can actually be quite a disarming person, if you pardon the pun, because he's just a likable man, clearly not one to take offence or give offence in most circumstances. So he's putting those persuasive skills to use. The cultist leader spots that the guard, as I mentioned last week or last session, is very twitchy. He's only a young lad in his teens, and he's been put on guard duty with a rifle, and not expecting anything to suddenly pop out of the forest. And when it does, he rather hastily lifts the rifle to his shoulder, and Dana, you can see how twitchy he is on the trigger finger. And the cultist leader, spotting this, as Brother Giles, put that down immediately. We use weapons for hunting and for defense only. And you can see the lad with the rifle looking very confused as Pendle takes another couple of steps forward in his attempt to disarm people. We'll move forward from there to the other cultists, because I see there's a whole bunch of those in order. The cultist next to the leader, and you can tell he's the leader partly because as soon as something happens, everybody turns to him, partly because he's got the voice of authority, but also he's that little bit older than most of the others. There's another man probably about his age. They look like they're in their 40s, and other than that, you've got a mixture of teens and 20-somethings as the other four people in the group. But the other three cultists, well, okay, I've written them down as cultists. That just happens to be the assorted NPC type archetype that I grabbed from the Zweig book. But we have there you go. I'm just updating things. I'm going to keep calling them cultists, even though I know that's not the case. They will instantly react by taking cover and looking slightly panicked. The one that's next to the leader will duck behind the piece of machinery, which noticeably the leader didn't. He instead stood to his feet and held out a hand in a hold kind of way to Brother Giles, and the others take cover and watch what's happening next. How do I just click the flag to move on to the next person? No, that doesn't do anything. How do I move on to the next person?
Is there a little down arrow in the bottom left?
Oh, it's that one. Of course it is. Malthus,
Yes.
you hear the commotion and voices ahead. What do you
Well,
do?
I can see Pendle walking out into the clearing, sort of looking disarming. So
you're aware that he steps out of your view into the clearing. Yes, that's the best way you lose sight of him.
Well, I would want to step out and sort of back him up. My hand
Okay.
is on the butt of Intrude, but I'm not drawing a weapon yet, unless Pendle's drawn a weapon.
Which he has not. And I
Okay.
believe he was very specific about that point at the end of the last session.
So I
Although
will
again, he's
yeah,
hovering over one of his knives.
exactly same thing. So I step out, right hand over the butt of my. But when I see Pendle talking, I'll try and force a smile, and sort of do Overwatch on Pendle. If these guys do anything, I will draw. So I'm looking supportive of Pendle and as hard as I can, basically.
Would you like to do a support action, rolling persuasion to see if you can give Pendle a little bit, just by your body language, give Pendle a little bit more of a backup? Get across the reassuring, we're not here to kill you, but we will if we have to type of body
Exactly,
language.
yeah. Excuse my superb persuasion on them. I thought I fumbled. actually, no, I'm doing this stuff. Good.
You do indeed support him. Your body language gets across the quiet confidence of a ship's captain, and yet at the same time the disarming presence of somebody who says, "We come in peace."
Yeah, I'm channeling the other Captain Mal.
And hello to you, Alan.
Hello and good evening.
Oh, welcome.
Good evening to you too. Let me do a little adjustment on your volume level for my headphones here. There we go. We got to the point where we really had just moved forward slightly, a few seconds from the point where Pendle had walked into the clearing to approach the young lad with the rifle, and was speaking soothing words. I can't remember exactly what words you were using. If you can, please go ahead and do a reprise on that.
Well, I'm not sure that we actually got to the point in time of words. I think where we left it was me getting shouted at to the tone of "alarm intruders" or something to that effect. To wit, the response was going to be, "Hey, careful where you're pointing that gun, lad. That's how people get hurt." No.
Fair enough. That works pretty well. And can I have their persuasion check to get across the idea that you don't particularly want to get into a gunfight, but will if you have to? You get a +1 because Malthus is backing you up. I believe it's a +1 from support. Is that right?
+2 because
+2.
he
Yeah,
got
I
a
critted.
Oh, you got a raise. That's true. That D4. Oh, that was
D4 is my friend.
has earned a dinner out in a glass of wine.
That's pretty good because that puts me on a net +1, which is outstanding.
Oh! We
Yes.
look very tough indeed.
That air of quiet, soothing confidence, disarming the situation even whilst holding a hand on the hilt of one of your throwing knives. To get across that perhaps firing that weapon might not be a good idea. Okay, moving from Malthus. Malthus, if you want to just to nudge on the initiative tracker to assaulted cultist number 2, random cultist in the background with the book in her hand, clearly in the middle of scribbling some notes about the monolith. And as with the others, she will, although she's got no real cover around, she'll She'll crouch down and hide behind her book as if it's going to do her some good, trying to merge with a handful of pebbles on the ground. And that should take us to a new round. Yes?
What about the on hold characters?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. Baroness.
Well, I see them going ahead, so I follow.
And into the clearing, you see exactly what I've described. That it's a large open space. The monolith from this distance is huge and looms above you. I likened it previously to if you took a skyscraper and stuck it on its side and kind of dumped it on the edge of a plateau, then that's what you'd have, and it is really that big. So you've seen it looming over you as you walk across the top of this butte and through the forest. But entering into the clearing, it's clear just the scale of this thing, and indeed around the clearing in various parts, there are bits of it that have fallen off over the years and are either just lying on the ground or in fact have become partly buried in undergrowth or soil. And there are parts of this monolith where near the ground people have cut holes into the side of it, and you can see in that there are ways into the structure of whatever this thing is. Other than that, the people are as described. On the far side of the clearing, there's the lad with a rifle and the itchy trigger finger, and a little closer in is the sunken monolith, or the sunken bit of debris, where their leader is standing and holding an arm out and to his man, saying, "Don't fire." Do you say anything as you come into the clearing?
Whoa. I'm watching the monolith and ooh. Yee. I want to go there.
All right, excellent. There's a look of sheer awe on Bernard's face as she steps in and ignoring the tension around her, she's craning her neck upwards and upwards and upwards at the scale of this incredible device, whatever it ever once was. All right, Inessa, what about your on hold action?
It seems natural to move forward. Just a quick question. Am I getting any kind of indication that these are dangerous people, like the danger sense flaring up? And I just follow the Baroness and take in the information.
I think it is only natural that when you see somebody like Dana in front of you, just instinctively uses cat reflexes to dive into the undergrowth, and you can hear somebody shouting, "Halt, intruder!" That your danger senses will flare up, and the situation seems inherently dangerous. You, at that point where you're on hold, you can't see around the corner of the forest into the clearing until you step forward. So at that point, you've only got those cues to go with, and I think your body would probably react and say, "Yeah, this feels bad."
I think she'll take a kind of a breath of, oh, it's them, kind of, when she recognizes their uniforms, and then she'll try and take some cover, but not pull.
Okay. So you will step into the clearing, but staying
Step
by
near enough that I can recognize that who these people are in my head. They're the enemies of Seventh Creed. They look a
Okay.
hell of a lot like them.
Yes, as you step forward, it is clear as you step towards the edge of the clearing, to what roughly where Dana dived into the undergrowth, you can now see most of the scene ahead. You may not see around the corner to where the guy with the rifle is, but you can see most of the scene that I've described. You can see the lead holding his handouts to advise his youngster not to fire. You can see the other people taking cover, and in your case, you get then the choice to either step further forward into the clearing or to stay where you are, where you can just go into the trees like Dana did, maybe the other side of the path from him, or whatever you choose to do.
Yeah, then in which case I will hang back and go into the trees opposite Dana, because I just don't trust this situation. But I don't think I can add my.
Okay. Having dealt with the on holds, how do we delete the on holds from you two so that I can do a new round of initiative, I wonder, without the on holds?
I think you can click on their on hold and deal them a card.
Ah, there we go. Wow. All right. It is fair enough. Apparently, the cultists love royalty, particularly kings, queens, and jacks, because it seems like almost all of them have got themselves very high cards in initiative order. What I can't figure out is why, under the two characters who were on hold, their previous cards are still being held visible in the combat tracker, or they're not. They've got
I have a jack now. Don't know what I
Yeah.
had before though.
Yeah, and those appear in the sort of gaming shoe underneath your character, as well as in the regular order on the card list. So I don't really know why that happened, but it was a thing. We'll just accept that it's there for some purpose. We don't need to worry about it. It doesn't affect our particular situation in any way. Okay. Assorted cultists are taking their chance in the seconds that follow to simply find better cover and hold back. You can see that one of the cultists, Cultist 6 here, has also got a weapon, a very nice looking pistol. And in fact, you could say about the rifle that the youngster has got that it is an extremely high quality weapon. Something that you would notice after a second or two of gawping at the amazing ancient device in front of you, is that the weapon that this 16-year-old is holding is not put together in the way that Seventh Creek might put together weapons using a general blueprint, but mostly built from the scrap that's available around. And instead, he has what appears to be an extremely well manufactured weapon that probably isn't ancient itself. It doesn't look like it's part of that kind of technology, but clearly has been manufactured to a much higher standard than Seventh Creek ever does. Similarly, with the pistol that is pulled from the cultist number 7 here, she has a weapon that you look at, Bernard, and think, wow, these are beautifully made weapons. They're not made out of scrap and put together to a if we can get it as close as this is possible, there's our template. These are manufactured in a factory somewhere to a very, very exacting and high standard. However, neither of the cultists at the top of this list actually fire their weapon. They simply go, Cultist 7, I need to rename as go pistol cultist. And hiding cultist. Those guys are doing exactly what they say. They're just going to aim and hide respectively. So how do I get the little red flag back into at the top of the list? No idea. Oh, okay, like that. The cultist leader, keeping his eyes largely on the young lad, sensing that things could go very wrong very, very quickly if he accidentally discharges his weapon, calls out to you, Pendle, and says, please stop where you are, sir. We mean you no harm, but Brother Giles is unused to such situations. Please give him his space. What do you say?
I happy to stand here while we talk this out, Brother Giles. You're the man with the rifle here. Is it okay if I talk to this fellow, or what else should you have me doing?
The youngster looks over at their leader and waits for some kind of confirmation. The leader, who has a very neatly trimmed beard, even in the midst of this wilderness, and a shaved bald head, clearly takes some pride in his looks. Strokes his free hand over the bald pate as he thinks for a moment. Says, "Come now, Brother Giles. We'll put the weapon down now, shall we? Or at least lower it a little. Let's not be so aggressive to our guests here." He looks across at the rest of you who are entering the clearing and sees that none of you have drawn weapons. Let me... but he does clearly spot that you're each in a position to draw weapons, those of you who've gone into the clearing, with the exception of necessarily the Baroness, who is slack-jawed and looking around in awe at the amazing scene in front of her. Of course, you do have your sword at your side and an owl across your back, Baroness, so you could reach for a weapon if you wished. But I assume, since you've not mentioned that you're going to, that actually didn't occur to you and isn't a big part of your plan when you step into the clearing.
No, it's not part of my plan.
My name is Brother William, says the bald man. And these are my people. Who would I address as the leader of your group?
Well, that's a little trickier out here. I'm sort of nominally the expedition leader while we're away from the boat. But if you prefer, this man is the captain, and I don't know. We're not that well organized.
He raises a curious eyebrow at you, Malthus. You have a boat.
Yes.
Not with us.
Obviously not. As my friend said, we're sort of exploring. You're doing the same, I imagine.
Indeed, no. I'm not sure that exploring would be the word of our choice. We have found ourselves here and unable to leave. Have you not discovered the same since arriving?
Well, there's a strange fourth wall around here, sir.
Ah, yes.
I figured it would be controlled from the machines up on the butte. Have you found a way to... I imagine you've not found a way to turn it off, then.
No, indeed not. We're not the greatest experts on such technology of the ancients. So whilst we're doing what we can to find our way out, not had success yet. He looks across at Brother Giles, who has dutifully lowered the barrel of the rifle now, and he
How
looks
long
across
have
at
you?
the
How
lady
long
with the
have you
pistol.
lot been here?
We've
Couple
been
of
here
days,
for
or
3-4 months, maybe.
3 4 months.
The lady with the book flicks to the front page and says, 3 months, 17 days, Brother William.
That's worrying.
3 months, 17 days, then, as it is written.
Where do you people hail from? Don't really recognize your clothing.
Yeah, well, I will tell you all if you're happy to tell us a little bit about how you came into this sorry circumstance yourselves. You're very welcome to share our camp if need be, or perhaps you have...
Yeah, if we're both trapped here, we should share resources.
come and join us. They do indeed have a camp set out here. You can see they've used their resources to put up an awning and where they clearly sleep under, and they've used the trees to create campfire and seating, and some of the things they've pulled from inside the monolith are being used for various purposes to create the best environment they can. They've obviously settled in for the long term. Whether they've truly given up hope that they're ever going to leave or not is up for debate, but they clearly understand that they had no way out, and so have created the best camp they can. Please come sit. A warm drink, perhaps. It has been foul weather. Of course, it is still
Yeah.
raining lightly.
Yeah, maybe if you share some coffee and stuff.
I'm not sure that we have that drink available to us. We're humble folk. Didn't have it when we came here, I'm afraid. And certainly, I'm sure it wouldn't have lasted had we had such luxuries. But a little warm tea we can arrange.
Look around at the others and see what their reactions are to this. Looking at faces.
The Baroness is still watching the thing and making plans about what she's gonna do to explore it, so she's not paying so much attention to them.
Inessa.
Anessa, if she can hear all of this,
Oh yes, and see
she
it.
will then straighten herself up and kind of slowly walk out of the trees towards the guys that are approaching, basically
Yeah.
towards Malthus.
It's a strange situation she finds herself in. It's not often that somebody who's brought up to one of the 4 houses in Seventh Creek lives to see the moment where, when it comes to who's your leader, that not everybody turns around and points at you and goes, "Yep, that person." But here you are in the Wildlands, and out in the wild parts of the Wildlands, I should say, and you've learnt that that things seem to work differently once you've gone past the outer farmsteads. But your danger sense hasn't exactly switched off. You are still extremely wary. You have that sense of potential dread about how the situation can go and about these people. They clearly are from exactly the same group as the 5 on board the Serendipity that started this whole thing off. And despite their calm words, it's clear that particularly the woman with the pistol has absolutely no intention of putting her weapon away. Whereas brother Giles, the youngster, is more than happy to put his rifle away when instructed to do so and come to the campsite and set up for tea. Dana, what about you in the bushes?
I'm going to get back on the trail, but I'm not coming out of hiding yet. So I'm still in the forest, but on the trail now.
Okay. All right. Does this mean that you can now be seen from the clearing?
My intention is to not be seen yet.
Okay. If you head onto the trail, it's one of those if you can see from the trail, then they can see you. If you can't see from the trail, then they can't see you. Your position in the forest is that you're in stealth, but still watching and listening to everything that's going on. So
Okay.
it's your choice as to whether you go on the path and sort of skulk there. But being stealthy on the path is much harder because it's obviously a path. If you want to keep an eye and see what's going on, than it is to stay in your hidden position in the trees.
Then I'll stay hidden and watch.
Okay. One thing we didn't do last week was we didn't actually do a stealth check for you to see how well you've hidden. So we should do that.
Okay, I think I did.
Or did you?
And it was when I had the Joker bonus, but I don't remember my.
Well, given the Joker bonus, we'll take the assumption that you have succeeded on that, and whether it had a raise or not is something we'll deal with at a time. But yeah, let's take the assumption.
If we want to stick with that, it would be a 6.
Right, that's fine. It means that the people in the clearing are unaware of you, except for your own group, who obviously saw you dive into the bushes and know that you exist. So how many of you are coming around the campfire to do tea?
Go to the campfire. I'm wary though.
I will certainly break bread with these people.
I will, but I'm not thirsty.
They've been here 3 months, so they're not the same people, or they don't necessarily even know about what happened.
Does that mean that you're going to go and have tea?
It means I'm going to approach and look vaguely friendly, but make it so that I can get cover and hide behind my bag and get my pistol out if they. I'd probably look nervous.
Yes, that's fair enough. I can see that.
It's a slightly tense situation, I think.
From both sides, for instance, you can see that while Brother Giles has indeed lowered the rifle and put it down to start making tea, he was purposefully chosen by Brother William so that he doesn't have. He has to put the rifle down and can't accidentally fire it. The lady with a pistol, for instance, very much has not put it away. She has it lowered, but she is holding it in two hands and does not approach the campfire. You can see that she stays where she is and from a distance watches.
That's fine. I very obviously have my pistol at my belt, and I could go for it at any time.
That's fair. From what you can see, only 3 of them have weapons. There's the rifle, there's the lady with a pistol drawn, and there's another young man who, I mean, ranged weapons, I should say. There's another young man who also has a pistol. He didn't manage to draw it in time before all this happened. He froze a little bit, and so it's still on his belt. Others, you can see that there are various knives and a machete and so on around, but they're for clearly setting up camp and doing camp things rather than generally to be used as a primary weapon. In fact,
Can Inessa observe this tea making just to try and get a hint of, is it just like normal tea they're giving us that they're using all the time, or have they found some special canister? I'm just getting paranoid about these people poisoning us. It's just an odd.
they in fact have a bag from which they're pulling a bunch of dried leaves and twigs, and they're putting that into their makeshift cauldron pot that's made out of a beaten piece of metal that they've stripped off the side of the device of the monolith and suspended over the fire. And so they pour fresh water into this cauldron and stoke the fire up a little bit. And as it warms up, they put some of these twigs and leaves into the water and start to stir it around. They seem aromatic. As the water warms up, it fills the air with a flowery scent. Brother William spots you looking at it and smiles, and he says, "Well, it's the closest to tea that we have, and it's a pleasant and fragrant drink. We appreciate its warmth on days such as this."
Yes, I'm not familiar with those leaves, but I can smell them.
Well, to be honest, neither were we. When we found ourselves trapped here, we began scavenging for what we could, and when the flowers came out on this particular type of bush, it was a heady aroma, and we thought if we dried and collected them as we went, then we could maybe try an infusion, a very weak one at first, to see in case we were left with an unpleasant cramping of the stomach. When we found that it wasn't so and was quite pleasant, we've come to take great comfort in this plant.
Yeah, I can understand.
Well, I believe we're about ready to serve out tea, and they do have cups of their own that clearly were with the packs that they wore when they entered the area, but they're a little short on extra cups for guests. So
I assume we have our own. We
Probably
didn't know that
do.
we were going to be out for a whole.
Tin
they-
cups or something.
but they're presumably you have a water bottle with you, but
Yeah.
presumably your cups are at the camp.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, you have a lot of this stuff, and of course you guys have a wagon, so you have all sorts of bits and pieces, but it's all at camp. For your hike around the wall, you took your presumably weapons. You had notebooks and pens to take notes if needed for somebody like the Baroness, and you would have probably had a water bottle, but I'm not sure how much more you would have taken for that day trip.
Yeah, probably true.
No. But they do. They set aside their cups for the guests and pour tea into those for all of you, and they have a couple of other receptacles that they've been using, and they will empty the water out of those to get themselves a cup of tea here or there for a few of their own number. And they don't have seats for everybody to sit around, but if you're happy to stand around the campfire rather than do much sitting, then Brother William is happy to approach you, Malthus, and offer you the tea first, as is the tradition of their people.
Compliments of the tea.
Pendle,
Good-
can you do me a survival check, please?
I certainly will do. The sort of thing I was absolutely going to be asking for relatively soon, anyways. Just see if I can.
We will, at this point, just close down the combat tracker here because I'm going to need it. Go ahead.
Ding, 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 ding.
Look at those
Ah,
dice
Yeah,
rolls.
nice.
Excellent. All right. You didn't recognise the dried twigs and leaves that were being pulled out of the bag, but you do recognise the aroma, and actually, you know that this is a herbal remedy. That this bush, the flowers of it are often ground down into a paste to offer a light pain relief in the absence of any other medicine out in the wild areas. So these guys have done pretty well to pick this for their tea.
Well, Brother William, I'm Pendle, and I'm, as I said, somewhat leading the expedition. 'Cause I'm something of a familiar face to the wildlands and know some of the inner workings of it. I've got to tell you that tea that you're offering us there is completely safe. And if you've an ample supply of the leaves, it can do in a pinch for a little bit of medical supply for some pain relief. Just something you might like to bear in mind for potentially grimmer times.
Splendid. Thank you for the information. I'm glad we stumbled upon some good. So yes, Trinitas be praised. And the other five chime in.
Indeed.
Trinitas be praised. I'll
Is
No.
make the
Trinitas the weird variant of the Trinity religion?
Yeah, Trinity.
Exactly. Trinitas is the very, very rarely openly worshipped variant of the Trinity faith, where the belief is that rather than muses becoming the avatars of the goddess and inspiring the population to great deeds and acts, that instead it is the descendants of Faith, the first stalker that led people across the land, who is the vessel of a god Trinity, who's basically God Trinitas, pardon me, who is basically exactly like Trinity in every possible way, apart from his chosen people are the vampires, the stalkers, the descendants of Faith, one of those first three kids that brought together the people in the post-apocalyptic wastes at the end of the Pulse War. So not that many people around Seventh Creek or any of the city-states have an awful lot to do with Trinitas, but because the influence of the Church of Trinity from the conclaves is so strong that over 3 generations or more, people have got very, very used to the teachings of the church. Church is all about the muses and the benedictions of Trinity, and they've built up quite a formal structure of churches and chapels and a priesthood and the such like. And over time, within the various city-states, even out on the edges of things in Seventh Creek, the belief in Trinitas has dwindled away to the point where there's still some who keep the old ways, and they're not particularly stigmatized against in any way, shape, or form, those folk. But they're considered just a little bit kooky for not going to church and doing the whole Trinity thing, having their strange stalker beliefs.
Am I able to hear from this distance?
Yes, I think we'll take it that everybody can hear. You're probably having to strain your ears, but you have cat ears, so let's take the assumption that you can hear pretty well.
Oh yes.
Right, so you have all of that basic information, plus on top your knowledge of Trinitas stretches to knowing that the bulk of the early settlers around Seventh Creek who came here from other places because it was one of the least irradiated, nanoblasted places at the end of the war, that they basically split into factions, that whole Trinity versus Trinitas thing, both of whom could clearly prove in the early days after the Pulse War that their deity or their version of the deity was actually working through them by performing various prayers and miracles. But over time, it's just that many more people on the Riseward side of the Wilderlands came along with this formal priesthood to Trinity. It solidified. Seventh Creek fell under the banner, and those who were getting squeezed out moved more and more setward up in towards the mountains and headed off and were never really heard from again. Most of them past the direction that later on got claimed by the Black Mesa Military Nation, which is this hard border on the edge of Seventh Creek, to a place where they don't want anything to do with us and we don't want anything to do with them. So look, just get on with your own lives and we'll get on with ours, and nobody's going to shoot each other in the face, okay? Which is pretty much the way that Seventh Creek City State deals with the Black Mesa Military Nation. Once a year or so, somebody goes from Seventh Creek over to the Black Mesa fence line and says, well, should we have our annual chin wag? It's a very North Korea, South Korea type of situation. And then somebody on the other side goes, no, bugger off, go and do your own thing. We're doing our thing over here, just leave us alone. But that's as far as it goes with Trinitas. There aren't very many stalkers around, and from your academic studies in the past, you know that there are quite a few of them who are caught up, at least locally, in this whole idea of, oh well, we're the chosen of Trinitas, and they kind of believe their own hype a bit too much. But they're generally an accepted part of society. I mean, there are worse evils in this world, post-apocalyptic as it is, than people who have to grow teeth and suck on blood. So most stalkers, as long as they're not rampaging around killing people off, are pretty much accepted as they're just folk like us with their slightly weird views of being better than us because they have a god and we've only got Trinity. Anyway, that's the extra knowledge that you have about that religion.
Okay.
I can give you actually one more thing, which is, yes, the explanation that at the end of the Pulse War, the legend goes that people were in disarray. Suddenly, the artifacts and relics and machines that were used during the Pulse War, for war or otherwise, stopped functioning, and the world was segregated off between the different fighting factions, and the survivors had time to come together and reform the world in their own image. And in those very early days, 119 years ago, as it's fabled, there were the goddess Trinity, or Trinitas, the god, if you're believing that, came down to the people, to the survivors, and chose 3 children to travel across the land and preach the gospel of unifying everybody's faith under one banner, and that faith was used to help survive the hard times and create communities. And as they traveled, they built a great following, and lots of people who had survived in small groups joined their cavalcade across the continent. And the story goes that at various staging posts, different groups were left behind to create new centers for the worship of Trinity, or Trinitas, depending on who you're asking. Whilst the main group carried on building more and more survivors into their throng until there were many thousands of them. They crossed the Great Mountains, which you guys can see from Seventh Creek, or off Risewood, past the Black Mesa Military Nation, and headed out to the coast, across the oceans, to a new mythical homeland. One of the three kids was a stalker named Faith. Another one was a muse named Samuel, and the third one was, I have completely forgotten who the third one was, but these three kids between them basically were the voice of the goddess or god, and brought the people to their holy land. And you guys are descendants of one of those groups that stayed behind to create a new life here and founded Seventh Creek. Okay, so there you go. So you know a lot more than most do. All those days and weeks in the caravan studying interesting things.
Yeah, and just as a note, Donna's people were very practical, so they don't like view stalkers as like, I don't know. They don't discriminate against a stalker's need to consume others.
And I'm pretty sure that in the Wildlands that's mostly the case across the way. I'm sure that that's definitely true of Donna's nomadic people in their caravans. But it's true of most of the farmers, for instance, and most of the city folk. Sure, some of the clergy is starting to stir up a bit of, well, that whole Trinitas worship, it's a bit, it's heretical, isn't it? We shouldn't be allowing that at all. And there are some pretty hard-nosed hardliners who think it should be stamped on, and all those people should be forced to come to church. Even the stalkers should just come to church and bask in the praise of the muses and how well those they represent the goddess. But yeah, if most people are happy to live and let live, as long as the stalkers aren't out there being monstrous, it's fine.
Yeah.
You may well find, Clyde, that your community will probably have had one or two stalkers in amongst them, because they will have tended over the generations to have gravitated to more outlying communities and more transient populations, and people who aren't settling down to be good middle class folk. As the stigma gets greater and greater against the stalkers and Trinitas worship, you'll probably find that there are a couple of stalkers who are actually part of your caravan, which may be where you learnt a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I tend to think of where you grew up as being quite a diverse set of beliefs, that people have acceptance of a whole different bunch of spirituality depending on how they want to view the universe, and that's accepted in your group. So it seems to be a good place to gather those kind of people like the story. Back at the fireside. So Malthus and Inessa, you're handed a cup by one of the younger members of this black-clad group in their severe clothing, who clearly, despite having been here for 3 months and 17 days, have kept their clothes impeccable and absolutely perfect, almost starched and ironed. Though you're pretty sure they can't find any starch around here, but they're very, very fastidious in making sure they are very clean kept. Their shoes remain polished despite the fact that they're out in the rain and on top of a butte in the summer storms. Your tea, miss?
Thank you. Very kind of you. Take it and have a gentle sip, and just be very watchful. I think she's just being highly watchful of.
You you cut out there. She was being highly watchful of.
Yeah.
What's going on? She's trying to relax, but just trying to watch them, what their mannerisms are. But then she's trying to be polite at the same time.
Okay. All right, that seems reasonable. You are aware that the woman who's standing back from the fireside, slightly with the automatic pistol, is although she has the pistol lowered at the moment, she could raise it in a heartbeat. She is keeping a very close eye, particularly on you and on Malthus, and clearly considers the two of you to be a danger or a threat. And brother William is not instructing her to lower her or put her weapon away. He's allowing her to stand back from the fireside and the general group of people in order to stand there. He checks once in a while. You can see he glances across and just makes sure that she isn't raising the weapon. But other than that, he lets her be and do her thing. Obviously, that's part of their social dynamic there. So, who can tell me a little bit about how you came here? What on earth brings you? He says, looking up at the monolith. Ah, yes, as
Well,
usual.
yes.
I see. He looks at the Baroness. It is indeed a thing that attracts those of us who fall to weakness. I understand the lure only too well. We ourselves came here in search of perhaps not riches, but maybe enough to allow our pilgrimage to continue, and found ourselves for our greed punished by our imprisonment here.
I don't think
You
this
would
is
not be the
any
first group.
punishment.
Well, it's not a completely dissimilar tale to your own. We fell on times that were looking a little bit lean and had to take a chance on something a little outside of our normal scope. And some kind benefactor pointed us in the direction of this butte. Not specifically this monolith, but there's other things up here that interest us. And yeah, now we have fallen foul of the same trap as you, and our goals, I imagine, are much more closely aligned than ever they were before.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. And there must be a way to turn the thing off.
Off?
Yeah, the barrier trapping us. It must be something generated by the post-war artifacts up here.
Ah, you believe the monolith is creating the prison walls around the
It
butte.
would make sense. This ain't no judgment on us. This is just the leftovers of the lost world.
He smiles
before we
kindly at you and says,
go on-
well, of course, just because the tools were man-made doesn't mean that the divine doesn't implement those tools.
Now, can I just ask one thing before we go too much further? I'd like to relax here, I would, but Brother Giles got me a little spooked with this mention of invaders. You have a problem up here with not being alone, or was that
You
just a general
aren't-
reaction to the presence of
Oh.
others?
You aren't the first group to have appeared after we came. When we arrived and first found ourselves trapped here, just like yourselves, we chose to look around and see what the limits were to the prison. And we saw that there was a camp, and indeed, very tragically, the graves of presumably those who had been in the camp. And it is clear that over the years, many groups have been tempted to come and take the spoils of this place. And the reason it's still here is because none of them could leave, and they're all buried at the base of the butte.
Someone had to bury them, though, so somebody got out.
I'm afraid we have found remains in the forest. Presumably, those doing the burying themselves could not be buried.
It's unfortunate.
We had a group come about 3 weeks after we first arrived, and we were ill prepared for visitors at the time. But when they came and they reinvigorated the camp a little bit that was at the base of the the butte. We came to them both to warn them of what they had fallen into, but also to offer to share our resources and maybe find together a way out of this predicament. And we found that they were less than accommodating, and instead we were attacked in the night after we first made contact with them, and they came up to the plateau here, and our group of 7 sadly is now down to 6, and you can understand why, particularly the youngsters are a little skittish of
Yeah,
those
it's
they meet
pretty
now.
sad tale.
But Trinitas indeed saw fit to punish the evildoers, and brought a great beast upon them. It would seem that when the wildlife crosses that same barrier, it also cannot leave, and much hungered after time, the great beast destroyed their camp and laid them low. They got, I would say, what they deserved richly and then some.
They all
You
got eaten.
yourselves have not found the beast, I take it.
Couldn't see anything down there.
You are fortunate to have made it this far. There is a reason we rarely go down to the forest level. We fear the beast greatly. We hear it growling in the night and snarling in its hunger, and it
Didn't
must
come
be
for
greatly
us.
hungered now.
Didn't come for us, sir. It's a curious thing.
Consider yourselves fortunate, perhaps even blessed by Trinitas. Yeah, 2 or 3 of the youngsters say, "Praise be." And so, you find yourselves up here.
Yeah, we do.
Brother William looks at you, Baroness, and says, "And what do you think of this great artifact of the old ways?"
Well, I can't tell yet. I haven't put my hands on it.
Ah,
Can I?
indeed, the laying on of hands, very important. Please,
What?
feel free. He looks over.
Why does it have to tell me
Yes,
twice?
Yeah, go for it.
yes, step back, please, and let the lady through. And the woman with the pistol takes a couple of steps back to make room for you to pass by to
What
the
name
to the
did he
side of the
call
door.
her?
Agnieszka. There you go. Take Agnes and add a K-A at the end.
By the way, when she passed Agnieszka, she says, "Really nice gun, by the way. Where'd you get that?"
She doesn't answer, and indeed shoots a glance over at Brother William, and returns to her vigil. Brother William, though, says, "These were weapons of our former people, and though we abhor violence, and which is a thing they find most acceptable amongst themselves, we did see the value in having some for hunting and protection, and we took the minimum that was needed for said purpose."
Who
Yeah,
are you people, sir?
If you were to follow the sun as it sets and towards the mountains, then you'll find that that some 100 miles from here there is a nation that prides itself on its military prowess and isolationism. Somewhat to our shame, we hail from that nation.
Do you shame? Do you not like your people, sir?
We have left for a reason, after all. The great resettlement begins. There were 2 of our groups. We split when we came here, and the 7 of us, now 6, came here to gather resources to allow us to trade at Treetown, and maybe have enough to continue our pilgrimage on to find our own homeland somewhere in this great open landscape where we could freely practice our beliefs. The other half of our group, whilst we were here, went on ahead to Treetown and went from there and started to look for scouting paths and directions in which we might go to find some open land of our own that isn't claimed by Great Bend city-state or Seventh Creek city-state or Witch Falls or any of the other places, and yet at the same time is free of the raiders and the worst mutants and mutated creatures that plague this landscape as a trial to us all.
Yeah, sounds like you've got quite a quest in hand then. You know, you might settle, but that's for you to find, I guess.
We find ourselves in a position that indeed Faith found herself in when she brought the people across the mountains to their promised land. We are more humble, a small gathering, only 12 in total when we left the lands we were brought up in. So, understanding that crossing the mountains was not an option for us, we thought that we might come here and use somewhere like Seventh Creek or Great Bend as a stepping stone, and heading in another direction, maybe start our own community in peace with everybody.
Well, yeah, no one likes to really cause hassle.
I'm going to take a break here. I just need a couple of minutes to go and use the loo
yeah,
and
a
get
tea would
myself
be nice.
another drink. So if everybody's okay with it, we'll pick up again in a couple of minutes.
Indeed, tea
Sounds
time.
good.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
I'm back.
Okay, how many have we got? Is everybody home? Oh, home. Everybody back.
All
I'm
right.
home.
I am back and at home.
Is anyone not home?
I think we're all feeling very at home with the situation. All right, so it's just Kath and Jim.
I'm just waiting until Donna has to show himself and turn this situation really awkward that we've been hiding someone in the woods.
Yes, I was wondering how that one's going to go, because yeah, that's going to require a little explaining. I have no doubt that Donna has all the skills he needs to put across the best possible explanation with a smile on his face.
Yep, I've got no doubt he will just smooth this over really perfect.
I admit I'd forgotten that he has academics religion, makes things an awful lot easier. What a great skill to have at the right time. Well, we might as well begin with Bernard. You indeed get to walk across to the side of the monolith as it towers above you, and take a look in where the metal plating has been pulled aside and ripped open to allow access inside. And you can see that within there's clearly a superstructure that holds the whole thing together. Huge girder off to one side of the hole, and once you get past that, then there is a whole series of platforms and gantries and walkways that suggest to you that whether this was a building or not, it was clearly designed to have people walking around inside it.
Is it possible to get inside?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's the reason why the hole was made in the side. Presumably, it's big enough for a person without even needing to crouch or anything else, or risking getting yourself snagging on any rusted metal. You can easily pull yourself in and have a look around, and it is huge. Honestly, this is a series of spaces where you have corridors heading off in different directions and gangways and steps up. Imagine it being if you had like the biggest factory you can think of that you've seen the inside of, and you've got these huge spaces that are several stories tall, and you have walkways around and gantries across from one place to another, and platforms where there are different bits of the factory process going on, something like a forge or an industrial steel mill. In the modern world, it's a little bit like that. It has it's not all one space. Clearly, there are areas off to the left and right. You can see in the distance. It's that big. There is a in the distance to it that are walled off, and there are entrances, presumably doorways, though you'd have to get closer to see, leading into those. But this is a huge space, and a lot of the platforms and the areas where these various walkways and gangways meet are large curved structures that lead to, you're not quite sure where. They seem to have a interconnectedness that you would need to study for quite some time to get some idea about what they are. But they're much more high tech. A lot of those are infused with celestium rather than just regular metal. The value of just what you're seeing here is you could buy Seventh Creek, probably Great Bend as well, off what's in here.
It's like Christmas.
It certainly is.
Christmas locking in the pantry to starve.
Christmas in no food, yeah.
Well, I'm sure I'm the Baroness is very happy right now, so she's probably trying to find any information or anything that she can, I don't know, get out or tinker with or have a look at, something she can actually, investigate further.
Each of the nodes that I've mentioned that are kind of suspended in various parts of this giant structure that are more high-tech Celestian-based, these sweeping curves that make for almost hanging like beehive type of structures. They have power to them. You can see that the Celestium is glowing to various extents. Some of them very, very faintly, some of them much brighter, and there is a palpable hum about a couple of them overhead. You could spend easily half a day just wandering around the structure, going from one to another, just to see it all, let alone actually spending time getting into any of the detail on any of these bits.
Well, I don't have any plans for today, so I think she's not going back yet.
You start to wander around the gantries and walk around the structure.
Of course.
Well, let's get back to those outside. Once the Baroness steps through into the structure, and you can hear her footsteps on metal as she walks along a few steps in the gangway, and then you can hear her footsteps disappearing off. The rest of you are still left having tea. The brother William is happy to do top-ups on tea, and says, "So, Captain, you
Mhm.
you have a boat on the
Yeah,
river.
back down the river,
Boat?
down in Tree Town. Yeah,
Ah, but you're not from Tree Town yourselves. You're not natives.
travelled from upriver. Yeah,
I see. Seventh Creekers. I don't suppose along the way you've heard mention of our brethren.
well, actually,
It's a shame you mentioned that.
yeah, I've heard of some people quite like you moving around.
I see. Well, that's wonderful. There's a palpable excitement amongst the group. Yeah, Brother William eagerly shifts forward, waiting to hear more.
But I don't quite think quite like you. I mean, you said you were moving away from your people because of like difference in religion.
Yes, but you'd recognise the others of our group, Conrad and his folk. They're dressed just like us. We of course have clothes quite unlike others of the Black Mesa, much less militaristic clothing. You understand, simpler clothes of faith rather than military prowess. They would look like us, dressed and clothed and talking very much like us. There would be 5 of them, 3 men, 2 women. Please, any news would be much appreciated.
Well, it's sort of awkward.
I think they might have lost their way a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm
the same
not
people
sure I
we're talking
understand.
about.
I'm not sure they would be the same people if Brother William's been here 3 months. Those people came down a few weeks ago.
Yes, I think it's been
it's
2 or
true.
3 weeks for you guys since you met the other group.
The people wearing black that we saw, they weren't friendly Trinitas worshipping folk. Like they were kind of very grim, and they had weapons on them, and they wanted to use them in Seventh Creek.
I'm not sure I understand, says Brother William. And do you say that you've met Conrad and the others?
Don't think it's your friend Conrad, but perhaps other people from your nation.
Well, just like us, 3 men, 2 women, and with a
Don't
similar
think
demeanor.
not quite like you. Like you didn't foreign us, whereas these people caused a right lot of hassle.
I find that hard to believe. Conrad is the
I
most
don't
peaceful.
think I don't think it was your friend Conrad. Maybe it was someone else from your nation.
Well, we are who we are. There are no others that I'm aware of who are Trinitas worshippers like us, having left the Black Mesa. We were a group of 12.
I ain't saying Trinitas worshippers. Maybe somebody else from your.
They're 3 men, 2 women.
If it was
I can't
Conrad,
remember the genders of those people. Can you? Was it the
The
same?
answer is yes. Yes, absolutely.
if it was Conrad and your fellows, their views in the world had changed and they had become a lot more violent than yourselves. And they have passed on to another plane of existence.
What are you saying here?
I'm saying they're dead.
He visibly is shaken, and one of the others.
It's not likely they're the same folk.
Yeah,
You've been here 3 months or more. You said this trouble was about a month ago at most.
yeah. You people ain't. Yeah, you people held your ground and showed respect. These people didn't.
I wouldn't have said you were cut from the same cloth. So I think maybe something happened to Conrad and the group he was with.
Or maybe some of your
it's another group.
your nation thought to take advantage of your wanderings to dress their own people in.
I don't see any reason why the Black Mesa, as a nation, absolutely isolationist. It took us years to build the courage to leave and strike out on our own. We have the courage of our faith. The Black Mesa would not engage with outsiders.
Well,
not in any way. And then you can see
these
that the others
people-
in the group are nodding in agreement with him. One of the others, the middle-aged woman, says, the 2 women who were there, would one have been dark-haired, wearing a short style like Sister Agnieszka here, and the other much taller with blonde hair, perhaps a couple of years older than her sister. And again, the descriptions match what you had.
I'm sad to say that sounds accurate.
She bursts into tears and runs away to the far side of the clearing.
I'm very sorry to bear such bad and grim tidings to you, Brother William. I think it may be best if we leave you and your kin to console yourselves.
yeah, I think
Yes,
my
digest
friend
the
is right.
news.
Very strange, though. If they were the same people as your folk, they behave very differently.
I thank you for your news. Can you tell me how did it happen?
We can probably tell you enough. How about we head on a little way down this trail? We go and see about sorting ourselves out, and we come back tomorrow when you've had a little time to digest this news.
Yeah, I feel that's probably best for all of us.
Where is your camp? Where are you staying?
We don't have one yet.
We'll make one not far from here, but should be pretty obvious.
You're down rather than up, is where you've camped.
Yeah, but we'll probably stay up here after you told us about the beast, and
Yes,
you don't want to
yes,
go
of course
climbing
you
back
should.
down.
Yes, absolutely. No, you should. You should not stay down there. The beast is a dangerous creature. Of course, you should come up.
But our
Where are
point
my
of
manners?
interest
You're
lies
welcome
further
here,
on
of
this
course.
way, and we can find somewhere further along the boot, and we can get set up for a night,
There's
and we
one
can come
thing you're
back tomorrow.
forgetting, though, Pendle. Where's the Baroness?
No one knows.
Disappeared into that monolith.
Okay, I'll admit I had
Gotta
forgotten the
go-
Baroness ever so slightly.
Go in like get her then. It's not like she'd still be in there, right? Right?
Oh, come on. What do you think?
Let's go and have a look.
Brother William looks a little nervous. Says, please understand that the creation here is has the potential to be quite dangerous. We tend not to enter the structure very far ourselves, and I had no idea that your companion, in her fervor, would actually go farther than the doorway. To be honest, I'm
Go and get her. I'll make sure she's okay. She's part of our team.
yes, retrieving her swiftly may be a good idea. Some of the
Thank you so much for your hospitality and
Yeah.
kindly lending us your cups and tea.
some of
Yeah,
the
we
machinery
appreciate
is
it.
some of the machinery is yes, of course. Well, please, you should go and retrieve your friend. And
Thank
enough
you, we
tragedy for
shall.
one day, of course. If you'll forgive me, I should go. I should go see to my sister. One. We shall meet again soon. Please, any of our flock will make you comfortable in any way they can. Even Agnieszka, I promise. But if you'll excuse me, and he turns and rushes off in the direction that the crying lady went.
I'm gonna try to stealth off and join them near the ladder.
Okay, you head towards the ladder. Okay, no problem. Nobody's heading in that direction, so you have no doubt that you are not going to be spotted by any of their group.
Going in the opposite direction towards the monolith.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You do all of you head to the monolith?
Yeah, let me get to the Baroness.
Okay. Well, you
I
have
want to
to
at least
step
stick
in.
my head inside there and see this amazing ancient tech at the very least.
You do see it, and it is. You have never seen anything like it. You have seen the technology of the Pulse War. In fact, there is very famously an area just outside of Seventh Creek, in amongst the inner farmsteads, that's well avoided, but called the Tube Park, which is where you're aware that a very large number of their flying vehicles were left at the end of the war, and so the technology there has been ransacked and gone for scrap for the brave scrappers who are willing to head into the tube park. And there are other places like that around Seventh Creek City State and beyond. In fact, yeah, it's always the brave ones who are willing to go into the older ruins to go and pull stuff, but nothing on this scale, nothing, anything, all this complete. I mean, the outer shell of the monolith would have been pristine and still in painted glory for the most part, if it weren't for the fact that somebody had ripped a hole in it in order to get inside. And as you approach, you can see that it's clearly they tore the hole where there was a doorway, and somebody has actually just straight up just ripped this doorway out and taken the door away, because in itself that is a goodly load of scrap to get money out of. The reason why it hasn't been taken to pieces and sold off and somebody is extraordinarily rich is presumably because nobody can get out of here. Those who come never leave. But yes, you see the structure inside, and you are aware that there is no sign of the Baroness. She's gone. She's off. She's in there somewhere.
Trinity's. Oh, I've got to find her. Baroness! Shout in there.
Yes, you have to give it a good bellow from the lungs to penetrate into the building and into this giant cavern. And you're not sure how far it's going to get. You might have to do a bit of backwards and forwards to actually find somewhere where she'll hear you, depending on how far she has decided to go.
Well, let's try.
Who's going in with Malthus, and who's staying at the entrance?
I want to go in.
Pendle.
I think I might stay back at the entrance.
Okay. And obviously, Donna, you are off heading back to the top where the rope ladder was, the top of the butte. Thus, Inessa and Malthus, you start to do the tour of these gangways and gantries, heading that link in between these amazing structures, celestium-laced structures that are suspended variously around the chamber. You go together, I assume, not splitting apart.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
together inside makes sense.
Okay, and do you call out to the Baroness on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Okay, and you call out loud and clear. Bernard,
Yes.
you have headed into the heart of the structure because, hey, why would you not presumably go for the area or the device that is glowing brightest and clearly has the most power associated with it? And
Right.
given that that's way up in the eaves of the entire building, and you're kind of hoofing up to it, you don't initially hear the voices calling you, and in fact, it's only a little while later, as you're clambering up a final set of stairs to get to the to this amazing structure, and are looking forward to sort of diving in through the doorway ahead of you into it and seeing what's inside. You hear the voice of Malthus and Inessa below you, calling from the other side of the other side of the building. What is it you're shouting to her?
Baroness, are you there? We need to head
Yeah.
out and camp. You are there then.
Well,
You can-
duh.
You can hear her voice very far above you, right up at the top of the structure.
I guess you're okay then. You found anything interesting?
Have I? Come up.
You found a way to
Yes.
turn off the barrier? Okay, well,
Well,
In-
I didn't say that.
okay, we'll come to you. Don't move any further in, okay?
It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to get up to her, just as it took her 10 to 15 minutes to get up there.
I guess I continue checking the stuff up there.
You're going to go into the structure itself.
Head up to
Oh, I have
her
to-
and find something good.
Yes, the gangway that you've been walking along is to this strange honeycomb curved celestium structure that is sort of suspended in space, and it's easily itself the size of a at least the size of the Serendipity of the boat. It's a big old thing. As I say, it looks a little bit like a beehive from the outside, with lines of energy pulsing along between the various seams. But there are doorways from the various gangways in. There are doorways into the heart of that. See inside that there is an awful lot of very high tech machinery that you've never seen the like of before. Outside, Pendle, you can sit yourself on the doorstep. The entrance there, and one of the, in fact, Brother Giles, meekly comes up to you and says, "Would you like more tea, sir?"
I appreciate the offer, but I'll just wait here. If the screaming starts, then I'll be needed swiftly.
Screaming, he says.
It said there was some danger in there, and I've every faith in the Baron to find it.
Oh, your captain's a nobleman, Baron.
No, you misunderstand. The lady that went in is Bernard, is the Baron. So she claims, at any rate.
Oh, your culture is a little stranger than I thought. I thought I understood a little bit how Seventh Creekers live and work. Well,
She's not from Seventh Creek. In fact, I've no idea where her lands are. Like I say,
Ah.
interesting times on our lovely boat.
Well, if you want tea later, then I'll keep it on the fire then. He shuffles.
Excellent.
You can see that Sister Agnieszka, absolute stalwart, has not moved. She's kept her position. All she's done is to turn so that she's now facing the entrance in the monolith, a little ways off. Still has her weapon in hand. Though,
Yeah,
again,
I'm out there
not
to keep an
raised.
eye on them and see what's going on with that. Make sure they don't turn on us while we're otherwise occupied.
There's no skill in Savage Worlds for empathy or understanding or any of that kind of stuff. All too touchy-feely, really, for the rule system. But we'll need to figure what role you'd make to gauge the tone of the situation. I'm not really sure what you'd roll.
Notice is probably about as good as it gets. It's some
Yeah,
sort of
I generally use notice for things like checking for lies and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not a great substitute, but go ahead and do it.
Well, that's eminently reroll worthy, isn't it?
Hey, look at that. Just that one extra that makes all the difference. You have a sense, not that you've got a deep empathic feeling for these people yet in any way, shape, or form, but you have a sense that they are, since they've been given the news, they're lost souls. They're just absolutely their will, such as it was under the circumstances that they find themselves in, was being buoyed by Brother William and their faith, and being hit hard by the news. Brother William, just like the others, perhaps more so than the others, it's really knocked them. It's hit them hard. You, apart from Sister Agnieszka, who's inscrutable, the rest of them clearly have kind
Who
of
was the one that was
shrunk.
crying?
There's a middle-aged lady who you didn't get introduced to, and she was the one who asked about the two women in the group of five. She rushed off to crying, and when you went in to go and find the Baroness, then she was the one who, or it was Brother William who went off to find her at the edge of the butte where she had run off to. Inside, rather than the Baroness doing the decent thing and coming down to you, Malthus, you and Inessa find yourselves schlepping and slogging all the way up to the top of this structure on these ancient gangways and gantries, and are quite out of breath by the time you get there. She's just a happy bunny inside this machine-like room that's suspended from the ceiling, and is observing and looking around all the bits of it. She seems very happy though.
That's great. Have you found any sort of like off button for the field trapping us here?
Off button?
Off
I
button.
don't think it's going to be that easy, but I mean, look at this place. It's amazing.
It does look amazing, but I want to be practical about these things. Can you turn the field off that's trapping us here?
Oh, I don't know yet.
Okay, what does this room do?
I don't know yet. Isn't that fun?
Okay.
And that's genuinely true. You have absolutely no idea what any of this stuff does yet, until you actually start playing with it a bit. Then you might find out what it's all for and how it works. But you're sure that this is just one piece of the puzzle. That the other similar structures that are hanging around the cavern, this giant monolith, are also a part of that, and you have yet to explore all the wonders that are through the doorways at either end of the structure. So There's a lot here, and very exciting it is too.
I
In
think
Nissa,
we need to make a map.
Yeah,
in
probably
Nissa,
Baroness.
your
Maybe
danger sense is going insane as you get near this building, and as you're outside the doorway talking to the Baroness, who's jumping around giddily inside, your danger sense is absolutely off the radar.
maybe we come back here in the morning, Baroness. We've got the others outside, and it's getting late.
Can't we stay in there?
No,
I mean,
I
it's
think
kind of safe. There's a roof.
we should stay outside. We don't know what heck's going on with the black rope. Come back in the morning.
What's wrong with them? Except the whole Trinitas thingy.
Well, there's some of the kinsfolk, probably the people who attacked us in 7th Street. So there could be something weird going on. So we should really get away from the camp, let them process the grief.
Well, isn't here away from the camp? So it should be safe.
We've got the others outside, Baroness. We camp
But they don't know.
outside. We come back in the morning.
But I don't want to get out.
Yeah, but plenty of time to come back here. You just got to play it safely, okay?
Okay,
That's
Inessa,
boring.
are you there?
If you're talking in Esso, we cannot hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've been talking the whole time and no one's heard me.
I thought I could hear.
Okay, so go
I
ahead.
hate this freaking push to talk. Okay, I've been saying it's really dangerous. We need to get out of here now.
Why is it
I'm
dangerous?
backing away.
What did you
Okay.
see?
Do you need me to repeat myself?
Maybe we should
Well,
go.
why is it
Baroness.
dangerous?
It just is. I can
How do you
tell.
know?
Can we just get... You're in danger, Baroness. We need you to get us out of here. Please come.
Baroness, I think we can trust our intuition, and we've got our friends outside. Let's go out as a group. We can come back as a group later, okay?
Oh,
coming?
you guys are party killers. Fine, I'm coming out. We could really learn a lot if we stayed, but no.
Yep, we can come back in the morning, ma'am. Let's move.
She's gonna mutter and mumble under her breath all the way back.
Look around. Is there anything obviously dangerous? No sort of dodgy-looking machinery or...
You know so little about this technology level
It all looks
that
strange.
you couldn't really tell. I mean, it all looks very slick and very nicely machined. It's not like it's got rusty edges. I mean, some of the walkways have, but these Celestium pods, these giant things, they're beautiful. They're lovely. They almost look sterilized. They don't seem to have any active danger that they've got power flowing through them, and that's always a worry. You've seen what happens.
Trinity knows what
That goes
they
wrong.
do, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, from your perspective. But Inessa, from the way you see it, every step that you can pull the Baroness away from this place, particularly this structure that she's was inside, is a step back towards sanity and feeling like you have more chance of survival. Genuinely, the danger sense is a your life is in peril type of thing. Sometime later.
Inessa will keep... She'll probably be slightly ahead of them, trying to get back out to where she feels comfortable.
Okay, good. You hurry it along a little bit, and I assume that by contrast, Bernard, you are lagging behind some, not wanting to get drawn along.
Shrugging my feet and still looking around in case I might see something I missed.
And Malthus, you in between the two are trying to hurry one along, slow one down slightly so that you all stay together as a group, and manage the situation. It takes you some time to get down. As I say, it's a long way up, and you make your way down to the entrance, and finally come upon Pendle, who's sitting on the doorstep, just quietly contemplating, watching the camp go about all the things that they're doing. Pendle, you can hear them coming up behind you.
I'll be Very happy that that is in fact the case.
And you can count 1, 2, 3. The one at the back looks miffed. The one at the front looks determined to get the hell out of there, and the one in the middle looks exasperated, having to have dealt with the others for the last quarter of an hour.
All of that is absolutely fine. There's still plenty of daylight left to be had. Everything's good.
All right, Inessa, you get to the doorway first, where Pendle is standing and ready to greet you as you get to the entrance.
She takes a huge breath. Oh, glad we're out of there.
Yes, in fact, when you step out and away and are no longer touching the structure, your danger sense just ratchets down a whole bunch of levels. You definitely start to feel your heart rate coming back under control.
Question, did I feel that as soon as I went in there, or was it only once we got to that pod that she was puttering around?
No, it was building over time. The minute you were in, you started to feel a little uneasy. The moment you were inside, and as you walked up towards it, and when you passed a couple of the ones that were not as powered up, you certainly felt it ramping up another level every time you went past one of these structures. But it went into overdrive when you got to the top of the gantry and to the entrance to this powered pod at the top of the monolith. When you left and you started heading down, it did de-escalate a bit as you went away and went down, but it never completely went off. You were still on high alert, if you will. Your adrenaline was well and truly kicked in for the whole journey down. And you've now had a quarter of an hour of a thumping heart and sweaty palms and the adrenaline kicked in, and so your body is ready to just go and flop. There's a point where you step out and take, as you say, that psychologically important breath of fresh air and feel the ground under your feet rather than the metal of the structure. Bernard, by contrast, when you get to the exit, you can't help but feel a little sad, like it's an opportunity missing, and that you're almost leaving a new friend, an exciting new companion behind as you step out.
I rub my hand on the structure and don't worry, I'll be back soon.
You have a strange sense, though. You have these strange senses frequently, so it doesn't necessarily bode well or badly. But you have a strange sense that as you stroke the metalwork, that the monolith is purring to you as if it were a cat. It's how you would imagine Dana would respond if you were rubbed behind the ears.
Oh, you like that, don't you? Oh, we're gonna play a lot together, you and I.
Yes, Malthus, you witness this standing next to her.
I sort of cross my eyes and just think about something else. Coffee's good.
The four of you get the chance to do whatever you want in terms of leaving the camp. Sister Agnieszka is absolutely still watching Sentinel on the four of you as you move, and Brother William is still off at the edge of the butte at the far end of the clearly consoling the middle-aged lady who's in tears.
Yeah, let's try and find somewhere to set up our camp then.
And where do you want to set up your camp?
A few hundred meters away from them. I don't know how big the butte is.
It's pretty large. It certainly is that and then some. So you could set up at the top of the rope ladder if you wanted.
Well, I was all for going further along the butte. There was that whole thing hanging on the edge of it that, well, that's what we came for.
The monolith.
So
that is the monolith.
that is the monolith.
We're
Yes.
above our camp, are we?
Yeah, you are. Well, yes, you're on
Go
that
down
side.
a rope and we'd be back at our camp.
if you
rope
went down,
down,
and you
so, yeah.
assume, in fact, if your sense of direction is pretty good, again, Pendle, throw me a survival check just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to work it out. No problem at all.
Oh, yeah.
That roughly on the side of the clearing, roughly where the woman went to in Floods of Tears, you probably, if you went to the edge of the clearing there, that would be the cliff top, and there's almost certainly a rope attached to the side of the clearing there, near where the monolith is hanging off the edge. So yes,
Monsters or not, I'd really like to get our tents and like our cups and things.
Yeah, going to the rope down gives us another way out as well. So literally set up camp at the rope down to our main camp.
so you want to sit there. So okay, to get
By
to your
camp, you mean sit on some wet ground in our wet clothes for the night?
I mean, we're sort of setting up camp in our wet clothes at the top of the rope down to our action, so we can go down and get some stuff and have a more comfortable time of it.
Okay. Now, if you want to walk over to the rope and head down that way to your camp where you've already got all your stuff, and obviously you've got a wagon with a couple of cows hitched to it,
If
and
they're still alive, that'll be a miracle.
Aye,
and
they're loyal cows.
Beast
have
wandering around.
you could go that way. Obviously, that requires walking up to the weeping woman and Brother William, and sort of going, "Oh, excuse me, where's the rope down, by the way?" Or you could go the long way, which is to go back along the forest path down the rope ladder, which was in better condition anyway. If you remember, the rope was slick and slightly mossy, and you're worried about being able to climb easily in the rain along it. You could take the rope ladder down, which is better maintained, and clearly the way that, if it's used at all, the Brother William and his people go, and then just walk back round to your camp along the base of the butte.
How long does it take, though, from the rope ladder back to our camp?
If you went down the rope ladder, you'd be back at camp in a couple of minutes.
Minutes.
If you went down the rope, you'd be back at the camp in a couple of minutes. If you go down the
Yeah.
rope ladder, then I think we said that you guys were heading around the butte, and it took you about half an hour, 40 minutes to get round.
Okay, half an hour.
And it's still early afternoon, so.
Oh, I
it's
thought
not
it took us
quite as
half a
bad.
day.
No, I don't think so.
I thought it took us half a day as well, actually.
Let me think about this. Hold on a second.
Admittedly, we were exploring the forest as we went, looking at the
You were going very slowly
boundaries.
because you were going hand to hand, just feeling the barrier and things like that, and keeping an eye. I'm just trying to think. The butte itself is about 800 meters across, 800 yards, and so around the base of that, yeah, okay, a half an hour is certainly too little.
From the note, it said that we left in the morning, and but lunchtime we were halfway around but not sure, and then we found the ladder.
Right. Well, but I'm also accepting that you're not going at a snail's pace, feeling out where the invisible barrier is, and keeping an eye out for things that might kill you, because you were wary
you're
of
cor-
obviously
I think
killing
you're
the
right.
people.
We're
The
also-
sensible option.
So it
We
probably
can
is an
go-
hour back.
The sensible option is to go down the rope and walk back up the ladder.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, that's
You
probably
folks
not
decide.
a bad idea, actually. Okay, so if we set up the camp set up our waiting zone at the top of the rope. Some people go down the rope, pick up useful stuff, come back to us.
Well, if we're not going to climb up the rope, we should probably go together, shouldn't we? Otherwise, if there is a beast down there.
Okay, yeah, if we all go down the rope as get our stuff, walk back down to the rope ladder.
What about the cows?
What about
Pendle?
the cows?
Pendle, what about
Indeed.
the cat? Let alone the cows. Aren't you leaving somebody behind if you go this way?
Well, this whole going further on down out of the way and setting up camp somewhere, somewhere away from these people was part of the motivation for not leaving people behind and allowing them to rejoin us in such a way that these guys wouldn't know about Dharma. But that was half an hour ago. Things have changed since then. No, I don't know what things.
So, Malthus, you feel strongly that that you should take the rope down, grab your stuff, then walk around and come up the rope ladder to set up camp at the top of the rope.
Seems to be the best bet. And yeah, even if Dana's not with us now, he's obviously lying low and safe. So, and he'll see what we're doing, I'd imagine. Wherever he is.
Okay, so you walk over to where Brother William is consoling the lady, the weeping lady, which is where the rope down is on that part of the clearing, and he looks up at you. For a moment, you can see that he's very angry at you, but he controls his face. Within a couple of seconds, he calms down. Says, "I'm sorry, we're rather. Do you mind? Is there something that I can do for you?"
I'm afraid so. We need to use the rope here to get back down to our camp. We'll be as quick as we can.
I see. Of course. Come this way. And he shepherds the poor lady as she's sobbing on his shoulder, a few feet away from where he is, and just points over in the other direction along the cliff edge. And indeed, there you can see the top of the rope as it's attached into the top of the cliff, just a little ways away.
Okay, let's go down one at a time. I'll go first. The rest of you guard the top while I go, okay?
I will ask for each person as they go down to do an athletics check at -1 to climb down. It is a slick and mossy rope, not in good condition.
And see how I can get the -1 on my thingamajig.
In the bottom left-hand corner of Fantasy Grounds, there's like an orange
I can see it, yeah.
circle thing. You can put a modifier into that.
Aha, that works. Aha! Good.
Okay, and you make it to the base of the cliff. Who's next?
All right, and Esther will go down.
All right, same thing for you.
I forget where I've got to put this number.
You can just click on the orange thingy and just type in -1. Not that you have any trouble at all with ropes.
No, indeed not. Following on, who's next?
I can go.
Right, go ahead, Ben.
So not -4. Minus.
You can take a -4 if you want and make it.
No,
as
no, no,
difficult
I'm good.
And finally, Pendle.
Showing you how to do it quickly, one way or another. Oh, it's not as bad as I was expecting.
You all indeed make it to the bottom, and when you've got 4 sets of boots firmly in the soil, you can just head into the camp. As I said, the rope is goes up from just by where the graves are dug, and just a little bit into the forest there. Just the forest has been cleared, and that's where the camp is.
If they wanted to kill us, they could have just cut the rope. The fact that they didn't, it's a good sign.
The camp is as it was, but as you get into camp, you see that the forest by the barrier where your wagon is has been heavily disturbed, and the one of the pair of cattle is lying half in its harness, half torn out, with the wood splintered around it at the head of the wagon, with blood all over the place, ripped to pieces. And the other one of your two cattle has been torn clean out of its harness. There's a huge amount of blood all over the place, and has been dragged off into the forest.
So both the cattle have bought it.
They have. They paid full price
Yeah.
too. And that is where I'm going to leave today's session, just a little tiny bit after the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a thing. Stuff happened.
Yep.
And poor old Dana gets left at the top of a cliff on his own for a few hours.
I'll be fine. What's the chance of the Black Road people hunting him down and killing him? Yeah, it's curious. Maybe
I
they're
tried
not
not to split the party, Clyde. I did. I really tried.
Yeah, I kind of was working against you, it seemed.
Nobody wanted to use the rope ladder
Yeah.
down. It was the safe option too,
Well,
but it
we
did
left
require longer.
the cows formed their little party and paid the price.
That's true.
It seemed that
Oh.
sliding down a rope would be a simple way to get down.
Yeah, going down.
Honestly, I didn't think, oh no, we've stranded Dana at the.
Yeah, but he's safe at the moment. We'll see.
Well, we'll find out in 2 weeks' time. I want to say thank you, everybody. I've had a good time as always with this group of characters.
Thank you for the game.
And you now know a lot more about the situation you were originally hired to investigate.
I'm not sure that's true.
It all assumes they're telling the truth. We just don't know.
I think they are. Something else weird's happened.
Yeah, exactly. Something strange has occurred.
Yes,
So,
figuring the truth from the lies is an important one. And of course, you're not the only group thinking that. They themselves will be sifting through what's the truth and what's the
Exactly,
lies
yeah.
of what you're saying, because you're a dubious looking bunch of people to start with.
At least we avoided an outright gunfight at the start, which was clearly on the cards. So.
Yes, that would have been probably a bad thing for everybody.
Well, some parties would go straight in for that. They've drawn weapons, we draw weapons. Kablam. Yeah.
Many roleplay groups would have indeed gone, look, they've rolled initiative. That means that it's time to fight.
I feel we're sort of like, lawful goodish line, so we tried to talk it out. So, yeah.
I just didn't want to get shot.
Yeah, that too. It's quite dangerous, isn't it?
I prefer my enemies sleeping.
Some game systems like AD&D, they draw a weapon, so what? In this, it could be dangerous.
Oh, one good hit with a rifle or pistol is indeed enough to ruin somebody's day right royally.
Well, yes, it is.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Next week, of course, we are back to the Duke Garibaldi and his marvelous airships. We'll see where that leads. I've been really enjoying all of your write-ups from Soraya-en-Mer and the various reports back to the magpies or indeed private journals or secret messages, and sent us letters to your sponsor back at the capital. All of them have been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed the different perspectives from the different characters. So I think for a little bit it may be that the campaign will head in a very new direction. Quite literally head in a different direction physically on the map.
Here we go, yes. But that would be fun too.
But I don't know how long for. That genuinely, it probably. I'm not planning that that'll be a permanent shift of the campaign from one thing to another, and it may be the time will flow slightly differently given the distances involved. We're going to zip past a whole bunch of things to get to matters that matter.
Good.
All right, I will catch up with everybody next week. Have a wonderful time in between. I may speak to some of you in between, which would be nice.
Yes, that'd be nice.
Indeed, yes.
And yes, have a great evening, those of you who are in the evening. Have a great afternoon, those of you who are in the afternoon.
Indeed. Well, see you later.
Have a nice day.
Toodles.
Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later. Should I boot Boffrin like he asked?
Yes, please.